recorded August 30th, 2023. Good afternoon, Andrea. Good afternoon, Brody. Good afternoon, Roderick. How's everyone doing?
Lovely. Just lovely.
Good. Excited to
Really
be back.
well. I'm more interested in how Andrea's doing, I think.
Yeah, our
I'm
friend.
still sick. I mean, last week I couldn't talk at all. Now it's just a little bit scratchy, but man, I haven't been this sick in a long, long time. And it's not even COVID. So I don't know if it's some kind of flu. I don't know what's going on, but I am here. I may not chat too much, but I didn't want to miss out hanging out with all my besties.
Maybe it's the hurricane flu. I think that's a thing.
Nah, it's the Beyonce concert flu.
That is probably true.
It's very busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, think about it. There was I think it was 2 days in a row. There was the Barbie movie and then Beyonce. That's enough.
She
to wear anyone out. Yeah.
she was in them streets for a whole weekend just partying. I get it. I get it. But we hope you we feel better soon. You're a trooper because you were still trying to present today on the Rockstar series. I'm like, some people just, that'd have been me. I'd have called in sick, and kept it moving. One
Do you
last
get
thing,
sick days in the U.S.?
huh?
Do you get sick days in the U.S.? I just figured you'd have no time off, no sick days.
Yeah, we do get sick days since you're trying to do with your Canadian humor. So instead of having to work 12 hours, you only have to work 10 hours on a sick day. There you go.
Well, you work from home. It's not like you can't work when you're sick. You probably shouldn't, but probably take you longer to get healthy. But still,
If
I
I,
can't.
if I have a cold, flu, or something, and I work, I can. But if I take medicine, it's a wrap. I'm gonna tell Satie what I really think about him, and I'll be doomed. So and then I'll make sure I implicate all of you guys by copy. Isn't that right, my buddies? But
Did you say sauteed? It makes me hungry.
He did say saute. Yeah.
One other thing, Andrea, are you safe from the hurricanes? You good?
Yes, thanks for everyone who reached out to check in on me. Weather is so weird. Honestly, hardly any rain at my house, but 5 miles away, some people are. In fact, I mean, their garages are completely submerged. So
Man,
it's been crazy.
Well, my wishes go out. I got a couple of other buddies in Tampa, and they say they're hanging tough. Rain, a little wind. They're close to the water though, so hopefully they weather the storm. No pun intended. Brody, how are you, man?
I'm a little rough. We had a gentleman come in from Microsoft who shall remain nameless and is across the table from me, and there might have been a few beverages consumed last night, and that normally doesn't happen for me on weekdays anymore because I'm a good, responsible employee. It was just it's nice remembering what it felt like to get up on a weekday, with minimal sleep, just having a great day. But I'm actually winning. Life's good. We had a major change we had to get done today, and it worked literally seconds before I joined this call, so that's good. So I'm happy about that. And we're getting some rain, it looks like, which is also good because we're having a bit of a drought here in Calgary. So I'm happy that's coming. I did a quick lawn mow this morning before I came into work because otherwise it's going to be wet for the next 3 or 4 days and just growing and growing and growing. But on our Discord server, the number of people have been posting that their gardens are like blooming right now, and this is approaching fall up north here. So everything in my garden is slowly dying and turning brown. So if you have any garden pictures that you want to post in the Discord, Defender for Gardening, please do so. I'd love to see that.
I got to get my Discord login back going. Something locked
Discord.
me out.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out. So Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, so I figured, I'm still actually realistically on vacation. I'm not even due back till next Tuesday. I've been off since last Thursday. Yeah, I guess. But I love what I do. I love technology. I can't stay away. So I'm here. And we have a super awesome topic tonight that I was super interested in, and I just couldn't stay away. So I figured Actually, and there's a big glare. So I'll take off my vacation glasses. I'll put on my business glasses.
You,
Uh,
you,
we'll do
you
that.
know, you know, just that moment, you look like the guy from Doom. They had the eyebrows like this. Remember, he had the bushy eyebrows.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Man, I do have some brows, don't I? Look at that. That
You
covers them
do.
up. These are actually my running glasses, by the way. They're
Mm.
they're tinted for road wear. So
Mm.
Well, we got the usual motley crew joining us, our fans, listeners. They're chiming in. The usual suspects, Noodle McDoodle, and a couple other folks I don't recognize. But
Noodle
let's
McNoodle. I like
let's
that.
get our guest out of the green room.
Shall we do it?
In record
Oh.
time.
Wow.
You could
Yeah,
tell
it's like feet after. I don't know what to do.
you could tell who we like. The longer you're in that green room, you're not gonna.
It was a wonderful green room too, so
All right.
thumbs up.
So,
Hey, Andrea's on mute.
welcome to the podcast. Andrew, you were saying something? I'm sorry.
To say in honor of Bob Barker, Bob Barker passed away this year.
Oh, that's
We should
why'd you
say-
have to remind me? That's so
I
sad.
was just gonna say we should do a come on down for Angelica.
I saw that today, but some of the internet has no filter. Some of the memes were cruel.
Oh, I heard one too. Oh, I
Yeah.
kind of want to repeat it, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Uh,
repeat it.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
just put it in the comments.
That makes
okay.
it better, Rod.
It does. That way it's forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we'd like to introduce our guest. She has graciously agreed to come on and talk about what she loves, her passion, her skill. She comes highly recommended.
Oh
And
God.
was really nice to respond to the email and say, sure, I'll do it. Here's my, speaking fee. I'll take Venmo, Zelle, Uber, and I got it over to her. So she's here. Miss Angelica Faber.
Oh, you did it correctly, yeah. Even though I say it wrong. Thanks for having me here too. I'm a big fan. And I might not always watch it on time, but I always do watch the recording. So
Oh,
thank you for having me here.
Appreciate
Actually,
it.
I think the last one that I caught up with was the one that Matt was with you guys. So
Mhm.
he's
Matt Sosman or Egan? 'Cause that was
Matt
long.
Sosman,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. He was my onboarding buddy actually. So
oh, cool. Small
yeah,
world.
yeah, I know, best onboarding buddy. It was embarrassment of riches there.
Yeah,
we still keep in touch.
Yeah, I was on the team, and then Matt joined the team. And Andrea, you joined the team before Matt. We all worked together. You were there before Matt,
Yeah,
right?
I think it was after, but I don't
Really?
remember for sure. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we did some good work together. Really good work together. So, Matt, if you're listening, thanks for all the good words out there and everything. Shout out. So, Angelica, what are you talking about today?
Mhm.
I'll talk about anything you want to talk about, but hopefully security.
No, you don't.
Hopefully security and AI. I think actually, I know Rod, you've been a little bit obsessed. I have been completely obsessed myself with that integration of security and AI from both sides. From the side of keeping it secure, but also from the side of using it for security. So I'm hoping that's what we're talking about today.
Well, I hope so too, because that's the only reason I'm here. No,
Same.
coming off vacation. But I have, and I think it should be worth noting to our audience, if you've not, and I posted it just a second ago, but Angela's blog is where I find most of this stuff. I think it's, I've been following it for a while. So as Angelica mentioned, love your name, by the way. It just rolls off the tongue, Angelica. But I love the blog, and I love what you've been doing with the Azure OpenAI stuff and with Microsoft Sentinel, which are absolutely my two loves in the world when it comes to technology these days. So we're kindred spirits. But for those that aren't aware, this is her blog, and this is where you'll find all this stuff we'll be talking about tonight, or maybe eventually all the stuff we'll be talking about. So
Yeah. So yeah, there's some stuff that I was testing yesterday that I'm hoping to show you today that I haven't blogged about yet. So maybe
that's
we'll.
cool.
Yeah.
A worldwide exclusive. I like that.
Yeah. I was testing some stuff in some of the stuff that I've been doing, but in a different language, because I I don't know if you know, but GPS, which is GPS, it used to be GPS US team, but now it's GPS Americas. So we're Canada, US, and Latin America. So some of the things that I've been blogging about, I've been getting questions about how can you do this in Spanish? Spanish, as you probably know, is my first language. So I was testing around with like generating some reports in Spanish, and it comes out really good. So I'll probably share that with you guys.
So are you using generative AI, I guess, to do that translation then?
Yeah, and actually it's funny because I tried it both ways. So like the one that I was testing it with is an incident report. And this was not the first one that I did, but one of the first ones that I did. It's kind of taking a Sentinel incident and generating a report out of like a summary of the comments, which, as you know, summarization is like one of the areas that generative AI is really good at.
Yeah.
And plus, most stock analysts hate creating incident reports, so it's a win-win. But somebody, I was demoing this, like, oh, well, can we do this in Spanish? And I'm like, well, I haven't tested it, but I tried it two ways. I tried it first by just like keeping the prompts the same, but then say it, please generate it in Spanish, and that did it just fine. And then I did where I actually changed the entire prompt to Spanish, and then specified that it needed to be done in Spanish, and it came out good as well. So either way, it worked, which is interesting.
That is interesting and awesome, and that really, when you think about it, that really increases the reach for whatever that you're utilizing and cuts down development time, right? Because now you don't have to develop a specific, let's just call it a co-pilot for lack of a, I don't know, or more meaningful term. But now you don't have to create a special one for every instance or language or occasion. So that's actually pretty cool.
That's right.
I feel like we kind of jumped in without setting the stage. Do we want to maybe set the stage so people have some idea, some context?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So yeah, it seemed like we went directly into the sophomore year and skipped the freshman year. So let's tell us. Yeah, you were saying, Angelica, that you had been working on this and you had something cool you wanted to show us. Is that demo what you were working on?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you any of them. I've done, so I guess I'll go back, like Andrea was saying, to where it all started. In April, I started doing, actually, no, I think it was March. I started doing some testing with integration with OpenAI. The very first one that I did was connecting Sentinel. These are all Sentinel for now. But connecting Sentinel to Azure OpenAI to get it to generate incident tasks. So these would be like the tasks that the SOC analysts would follow and then check off as they get them done. And after that was RSA. So during RSA, one of my partners, an ISV, I guess, can I say their name here? I can say their name? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah.
Sure you can. I mean, we've talked about partner size fees and SIs before.
Okay.
If they don't mind coming on the show later, yeah, sure.
I'm sure they would love to. So, well, I'm signing them up already. But so Rubrik was the partner that I worked with.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a demo during RSA where it just took information. What I did was I used the system role to set the stage, but I gave it like a ton of information specifically about the Rubrik connector. So when it generated those incident tasks that could be done, they were like smart, they were appropriate. And also another one of the steps was generate a KQL query, but then I fed it the entire schema of the Rubrik tables. There's 3 tables that the Rubrik connector ingests data into. So, by grounding it in some way using that system role, when I'm asking to generate this incident task suggestions, they're not just coming out of the blue, but they're actually grounded into some information, which at the end of it, the output is much, much better. So that's how it all started. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see that. By the way, Rubrik took this thing and they just ran with it. They made it so much better. They really improved upon that.
So a little bit of background on you before we go further. You are like an MVP in collaboration, right? Weren't you like a voice heavy or was security your primary skill set?
No, I come from a security background completely. I've been doing security, well, more than 20 years now.
Okay.
So I did security at Oracle. It's really mostly for the identity side. And then I was at Oracle for 20 years. Then I went to Citrix for 2 years. Citrix, and this is new, so this is in the news, so this is not a secret, but Citrix had a breach. And so they brought on they built a team basically to come in and make changes in security. And I was part of that team that was brought on, and mostly, believe it or not, mostly related to identity. So that was my background. But I had done managed security services before. So I ended up with, when I ended up here at Microsoft, I ended up doing a lot of the work with managed security services, which ended up being a lot of Sentinel. So that's how I ended up with Sentinel.
I don't know where I got that incorrect tidbit, but please continue about your project you're working with Rubik.
Yeah. So after RSA, the demo went really, really well. And the team built a solution around that. And it's actually in their website too. It's available. And in fact, we're actually going to be presenting at Microsoft Envision, which is September 13th.
Nice.
I don't know. Have you heard about that one? The
No,
conference?
I haven't heard of that one.
It's like a tour. It's really AI specific tour. And there's like a 1-day conference in different cities across, all over the world. And the first one is September in New York City. So I'm actually going to be there with the Rubrik team presenting on that solution.
Cool.
Very cool.
Oh, that's great. Is it going to be recorded at all?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. 1 day in person only.
Yeah, right.
So
Exclusive.
yeah, another exclusive thing. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. So with this solution, I'd like to see it.
Yep.
Yeah, our
So,
listeners.
Want to start with the I guess we'll start with the Rubrik one, and then maybe we'll go to the other one that I was talking about, which is in Spanish, which is what I've been testing the Spanish stuff. So let me share my screen. Present. And I'm new to this system, so hopefully you can see. Oops, here we go. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Right. So since I'm going to start with Rubrik, I'm actually going to bring in a different tenant. I'm actually moving tenants from my PowerPuff tenant to a new tenant. Anybody that knows me, I'm always presenting on my PowerPuff tenant. So I'm actually going to run the playbook first, and then I'll show it to you because it might take like a minute or two to run. So I have some alerts here from Rubrik. Maybe we'll take one of these. Actually, let me make sure that I haven't run anything on this one yet. There's no incident task or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and run it first, and then I'll show it to you. I'll show it. And this is really the very first one that I did. Make sure that I'm running the right version of it.
While she sets that up to our listeners that are not actually watching, she's a consumer of the stuff. I saw that she had the stat triage deployed in her environment also.
Yeah,
Hmm.
actually, I'm going to show it to you in a little bit too, because I actually built another integration with Azure OpenAI that builds upon that too. So, okay, while that's running, let me make sure it's running. I actually built two versions of this. You see that I have the OpenAI one and I have the Azure OpenAI. I started testing with OpenAI, but then I moved to Azure OpenAI because a lot of our partners and their customers too, they're concerned with making sure that anything, especially anything security based, stays within a generative AI that is, living within their subscription, and they can control the security around that. So this is very important to our partners. And I think also did it run already? Well, it ran already, but I'll show you what it does real fast. So this is, the trigger is an incident, a Sentinel incident, and then it goes to Azure OpenAI. And you see how I was telling you that system message, I really packed it up with information about the rubric connector and all of the rubric solution, security cloud solution, that what it can do within it. I even put information about, because the connector actually has additional playbooks, so I tell it about all the additional playbooks. And then
Yeah, just to interject real quick, that's kind of an interesting point. I want to hover here for just a second. How important is it, the prompt for the AI or the GPT or whatever? How important is the prompt? Because I know I've seen a lot of people go to ChatGPT or Azure OpenAI GPT implementation and just type in like a couple words in a sentence, and they're disappointed with the results. You have like some major stuff here. Is that important?
Oh my God, it's so important. And also, it's important so that you can get the result that you want, right? Because this is me, and granted, it's the system role, so there's additional stuff that I can do to ground my my model, and this is part of what I can do to ground it, to make sure that when it gives me an answer, it's not making up stuff. This is also to prevent hallucinations too, right? And there's a lot more that you can do with that, but it's part of it is grounding it.
I hear the word hallucination. It always reminds me of like the Gilligan's Island, where they had like a dream sequence and the little wavy lines, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes it feels great. All right. So then, by the way, what I'm doing here is because the API for Azure OpenAI is not stateful, so it's not going to remember the answer that it gave me here. And what I'm asking it here is, please provide the steps to investigate a security incident, right? But I want those steps to be separate because I'm inserting incident tasks by themselves. So what I'm doing is I'm feeding it here, over here actually, the answer that it gave me on the top, so that it remembers, because there's no memory, there's sort of stateful API. So I'm doing prompt chaining to be able to keep that. And then I ask it for step one. And then what I do with that step one is that I insert it as a task. And then I do the same thing with the other steps. And then there's a last step here that is a KQL query. And again, I'm not just saying, hey, generate a KQL query. I'm saying, by the way, the schema to this rubric tables is this, and
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I gave it the entire schema in there, so that when I ask it to provide a KQL query, then it's going to be like a smarter KQL query.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to close this up, and by the way, this is generative AI, so I have no idea what it's going to generate. And this is live, so we have no idea what we're going to see in here. So these are the 4 tasks that it just generated. And sometimes they're super detailed, sometimes they're not. But see, in here, it did give me like this one, investigate. That's actually not super useful. But in here, it gave me, hey, there's a playbook that you can run, the rubric anomaly analysis playbook. And so that is in fact a playbook that they can run. And then when it gave me the query, and in this case, it's a very simple query. Sometimes it generates like a longer query depending on the steps that it generates. But this type of investigation is more, there's a lot less hallucination when I'm feeding it all that information beforehand. So this is one of the first ones. Oh, the other thing that I do here, and actually to your point, I think Rod, you were making that point earlier. It is AI. So I'm adding a tag here saying, hey, these tasks were generated by Azure OpenAI, because maybe later you want to check and make sure that it's, because you can't trust it blindly, right? It still needs to be checked by humans.
That's a good idea. I'm putting the tags in there. That's awesome.
So, Angelica, let me ask you real quick, just based on my experience.
Yeah.
I mean, this is fantastic, but what is this costing you on the back end?
So for me, the additional cost, the playbooks, running the playbook itself, the logic app, and then
Azure OpenAI, so importing all of this data. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not importing any. In this case, I'm actually not. I'm just running queries back and forth to Azure OpenAI. So I'm not importing any data to Azure. But I'm still, when I'm asking it those questions, I'm still sending information that you might not want to share, with like a service that you don't have control over. But this Azure, actually I can show it to you. Actually, that's a different thing. But this is my Azure OpenAI instance that runs. Let's see if I have it here. I guess I could go back to this one.
This costs you something, right?
Yes. And the pricing for this is per API call. And I don't have the link to but maybe we can share later in the links the pricing, but it is per API call.
And there's a question. I'm kind of curious on that as well. Is there an actual Azure OpenAI action in Logic Apps or connector, or are you just using the API?
Yeah, that's a great question. So and I'll show you just the one that I just showed you so that we don't confuse people. So I tend to go 100 miles an hour. But I created a connector, a custom connector, which is super easy. By the way, I have that documented in my blog. So if anybody wants to create this call here, this is, as you can see, is a PowerPuff logo there. That's a custom connector that I created. The reason that I did that is because technically I could just use an HTTP card and just call it, but I wanted to make sure that the API keys were kept in a safe way, especially because I work with partners. Partners sometimes manage instances that are customers' instances. So they might create something like this, but they don't want other people to have access to the API keys. So I can come here and update that the API key value, but I can't see what the value is. So that's why I created a custom connector. It's very, I don't know that we want to work through this, but it's actually very straightforward to create a custom logic app connector. If you're calling an API, you can create a custom API connector, a logic app connector.
Another reason why you're on our show, because that's awesome.
Awesome. So actually, I wanted to show you maybe the other one that we were talking about. I'll move this one over here, this tenant over here. And maybe I'll show you the one in Spanish because I haven't shared that yet. I'm super proud of it too because it's my native language. Oh, yeah. So let me see. So actually, I'm just gonna take like a ransomware incident. Let's just take this one, even though it's just one incident. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna generate, because right now I don't have any activity in the log because it hasn't been investigated. But I actually created a playbook to do that too. So I'm gonna run a playbook that does just inserts some sample data, sample comments. Actually, you see it here, generic. It takes like a minute to run, but it basically is gonna run and insert some data into the comments, because what the next playbook that I do is it's gonna generate an incident report. So it ran already. So if I refresh here, this is me just cheating. Excuse me while I cheat. And hopefully, yeah, there's some comments in there. All right, so now I can run the other playbook, which is gonna be the incident. And I'll show it to you in English first so that we can all read it, but then I'll show it to you in Spanish. All right, it's this one, incident report. I'll run it and then I'll click on it while it runs. So what this one does, and I'm actually moving from one tenant to another, so that's why I'm going back and forth. See how simple this is? Like 4 steps. So this is it's just a trigger of an incident. It runs a very short KQL query that goes and gathers all the comments for these for that incident. And look, this one's like a very short system message, but I could give it a ton more information, right? If I wanted that report to be more complex. But I'm just telling it, hey, I just want 3 parts: incident summary, technical details, recommendations. This is my address because I'm an MSSP. I work with MSSP all the time. And then when I ask it out, hey, I want to make sure that it's in HTML format. And then I'm feeding it here the comments that I just gathered from this query. And then I'm actually sending an email, which I'm hoping that it made it here already. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that email looks like. So I'm actually emailing it to another account that I have, but this is the one that we just ran now. And so it generates this incident report with those 3 sections. It even, in this case, it even has a link to Defender for Endpoint, and it has my contact information here. So it's like, and like I said, like I wouldn't just trust this blindly. You could probably maybe even put like a card to have an approval in there before you send this to your customer, or maybe, I don't know, put it into a blob storage and then use that for your customer. So have some kind of human reviewing this on, I always like to preface and make sure that that's the case, because you can't just trust it blindly.
Well, that's another interesting comment. I think the human in between, right? So between AI and those processes and things that we do in the business or in security operations and stuff, having that human in between, that's important, obviously, because I don't know 100% if we trust what's going on at this point. But do you think there will ever be a time where we don't need that human in the middle?
Well, I think we can build safeguards around it. Like the system prompt was at the very beginning. Yeah. I know that there's that other new advances like type chat, for example, I was reading about, that you can basically build in some kind of a zone where you can actually check to make sure the output before it is actually sent to the end user. So you can build those safeguards, I think, automatically to check for certain things. I think the more you test it, also the better you become at prompting. And you probably know this firsthand yourself, Rod.
Yeah, well, it also might be that, as time goes on and we get some consistent values, that maybe we just become calloused or we become more comfortable with what it does. And it's like, Facebook, we're going to give away everything eventually because we start to trust it, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Which is interesting. It's almost like you need an AI to verify the AI, right? This
Yeah.
whole chain of events before you actually trust this thing.
You know what? There was a session that I was attending and they were talking about that. He's like, they had like a list of things to prevent hallucinations. And the last one was like, have it check itself, have it double check, like ask a question, say, is this, whatever the output is this valid? And then have it double check it. I haven't tried that yet, but it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This is really awesome. I'm looking at it, and I definitely want to talk to you out of band because there's a particular product that could use more context in their response to their customers, and about how the incident was handled from discovery to close, right?
mhm.
And what I saw, you mentioned that this is primarily integrated with Rubik. It
Well,
seems modular. Can we use other tools outside Rubik?
yeah. No. So the first one was because Rubrik just partnered with me on that one, but the other ones, you can do it for anything. Like the incident report, this one, you could just do it for any incident really. And I bet that because I've shown this to partners, there's probably partners by now that have made improvements to this already. I don't know if they tried it in Spanish. Actually, let's run that in Spanish while
Let's do that.
we're waiting. And I have the two versions, and I'll show you I'll just run the first one. But see, like in this one, and from what I saw running, and this is like brand new, I haven't tested it enough. But I asked the whole question in English, or I put everything in English, and then I say, hey, please generate it in Spanish.
Oh, nice.
So
Easy.
it's not like I need to know Spanish to do this, I wrote this whole thing, but the other version of the report, or maybe we'll run that one too, to see if there's any difference. Spanish too. So this one, I actually translated the entire thing. And here. So in here, I'm actually asking it in Spanish.
Hmm.
So let's see let's see the first one. So this is the first one, the one that, and I know that you probably can't read Spanish, but it makes sense. It has, still the name of my company, the recommendations, even with some links in it, and some technical details. It even gives me the link to the actual, in this case, it was the Defender 365 link, and like a little bit of a summary there.
I'm going to ask the obvious question. You could easily have pivoted this and did this in Teams. Spin up a Teams channel.
Yeah.
And the customer is federated to the MSP, and so they get a war room Teams channel spun up, and then these details go into it.
That's an awesome idea. I didn't think about that.
Now, do those links in that first one go to Spanish version?
Let's see.
Documentation, or because I noticed this one doesn't have links.
Let's see. This one actually it's going to MCAS proxy web. I don't know why it's going there. I'm looking at the links in here. Yeah. Oh, it might be information, and I don't know if this user. Okay, so this one doesn't. It's funny because it actually gives it to me in the error it gives me in Spanish. Yeah. So it already knows. It might be that my user doesn't have permissions also in some of these cases, because it's sending it to MCAS. Let's see some of the other ones. This one is still sending it to MCAS. I'm not sure why it is, but it's
there's that
this
AI
one just gave me an
AI
incident.
thing. So.
Let's see what this one. Oh, this one is docs.microsoft.com. No, it doesn't send it to me in Spanish, because it would say, it still says ENUS. So that's one thing that I could probably add to the prompt to say, and even this docs.microsoft.com, technically we updated it to learn.microsoft.com. I could tell it in the prompt that, hey, any links, make sure that they point to learn.microsoft.com. And in the Spanish one, I could probably force the that to happen. I have to try that next time. But it's see how when you run things, you get to yourself how to improve your own prompt so that it can actually generate better. So the more you use it, the more familiar you come with it and what you need to tell it. And it's almost like talking to a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to give it very precise instructions.
Right.
And so the trigger for this is the incident. So we see the playbooks running. What about closure? Are you throwing an automation rule toward the back end, or how are you resolving the incident all up if it comes to be a false positive of something? It investigated, it came to a conclusion. You can go ahead and either lower the severity or close out the ticket. Does it do that inside of this also?
I don't have one that does that right now. I do have one, and I guess as you become more comfortable with it, you could. But I do have one that checks on alerts and like helps you brainstorm on ways to prevent an alert that that has been causing false positives. So I can actually run that one too.
Well,
So
I hate to put you on the spot while you're doing that.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation? Should people, based on the results of this, this generative AI response, should they trust it enough to perform some action at the end of it, or should kind of hold off on that?
I think, and you would probably have to do more development than what I have done. And I know that's possible with functions. I have tested functions, but I haven't found like a use case for it. I think there's certain things that you can trust it to do things on your own, like maybe open a Teams chat war room, for example. I would trust it to do that. Would I trust it to go and I don't know.
Isolate a machine.
Yeah, isolate a machine or
lock out the CEO. Yeah.
Exactly.
That'd be
Yeah,
bad.
maybe not quite yet. Well, not with this level. And it might be, if, for example, we have AI within Defender 365 already, right? That does that automatic remediation. And so those are obviously the security team has a lot more data than I have here, right? So with a scenario like that, you probably become more and more comfortable. And there's also like levels of comfort, right? Like if it's something that you want to be 95% certain before you trigger that, then you could probably write that into the code, right?
Right. Yeah. Have some sort of confidence level, and then if as long as it's transparent to the administrator what action it wants to take and the confidence level, then the human still has to approve or deny the action. So it's still a check.
And that's a great point, Brody, because we have like in the email, we can add an email to approve or deny. So you could put that card in there before the next action triggers, right?
And probably based on the severity that initiated the incident, if it's probably high or critical anyway. I was about to say triage it, that a junior personnel could not, do approve it. It had to be the seniors, tier 3, tier 4, someone else to do it that way. And that way you have an experience level that could gauge the trust of the answer that is given.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want a junior person just doing it because
Yeah. That's actually another playbook that I have, which is like an initial assessment of an incident to tell just exactly that, a junior person, hey, here are some brainstorming ways and that you can do that. I'm going to run the one that I told you about because I will forget if I don't. Is the one I'm actually going to run it from entity behavior. I have Barbie. I know you were talking about Barbie earlier. So I have some stuff that Barbie has been doing.
The topic of the year so far. So
yeah. Actually, I might have to expand it a little bit to actually see her, to see some. There it is. There she is, Barbie. Sometimes I test with Barbie. Sometimes I test with the villains from Powerpuff. Depends. So, okay, I'll take that one right here. This is showing, I know it's in the last 24 hours. So this is at alert level. And maybe this password spray has been generating some false positives. So make sure that I run it on the right one. This is the one. And while that runs, let's click on it so I can actually show you what this does. So this one is, so it's a different trigger. This one is alert level trigger as opposed to incident like the other ones. And it's running a very simple query just to get the actual query. And actually, I don't know if that one has a query. So maybe I'm not using the right one. We'll find out real soon. But then it asks, I'm feeding it, again, a ton of information, as much information as I can, tables on anything that I think that might be useful to troubleshoot or to give ideas about how to improve. And in this case, I had to check and see if this one's actually going to be a good one to show you, but I still run through it. It's asking how to improve the KQL query so to prevent those false positives. And then what I'm doing here is, well, I'm sending myself an email, but then I'm also, just for my testing purposes, but then I'm actually creating a blob. So I'm actually generating a report on my on blob storage, Azure storage, that it has the alert and then the time. And by the way, I'm adding this in here. Please note the following reports generated by Azure OpenAI. So it's crucial to note that while it aims to generate the most accurate and helpful advice, the response should always be reviewed by a human, which is, I think it's very important. And I have no idea what it's going to generate here, and it might not even be a good option to show you this thing. 30, oh, this one. This is the one that we just generated. It's probably not very good because I don't think I have a KQL query for this one, but I still want to see what it generated. Okay, so see, it didn't have a KQL query for this one. So because it's coming from Defender 365, that alert, that specific alert, but it does give you some recommendations. And this is the little warning that I put on the top. So let me see if I have another one that had a KQL so you can actually see it. Let's see this one. I don't know what this are. Download, we're gonna see. Okay, so this one had a KQL query, and so it'll give you some recommendations. I think what I like about it is that it's kind of like when even it's not just junior SOC analyst, sometimes even a senior analyst that is just like, I don't know, it's the end of your day and you're just like burnt. You just need like brainstorming to think outside the box. You know, some of this
Feel
stuff
that.
you should be solved.
Angelica, I've been using like the paid GPT-4 with the web client plugin, so just to help save time for troubleshooting because there's not enough time in the day, right? So if we can give security analysts more information immediately and ideas to try up front, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, like that's what technology should be doing, is helping us and assisting us.
Exactly. And especially in our industry where we know there's so much burnout, where we, you know, it even like sometimes companies don't want to hire junior analysts because they just don't have the time to train them. Provide tools like this, and suddenly they're helping themselves, you know.
Well, and I think that's again, just to kind of re-highlight that a lot of what you've shown today is not the reaction to the incidents; it's actually the enrichment, right? So it's a time saver. It's it's that whole co-pilot thing that Microsoft likes to talk about. Someone that actually, or some technology that actually comes alongside to help, versus taking over, the reactions and the actions that are needed as part of that, right? So all the stuff that you've shown is the enrichment, which is super awesome. Have you working with customers and showcasing this to our customers, have you seen some time savings that you can kind of put your thumb on to understand how much time savings there might be?
I haven't. I know that so some of them, to be honest with you, are still a little bit hesitant about how to implement it. But there's a lot, because I really just deal with partners. So partners are probably going to be a lot more cautious than customers are.
Mhm.
But they are definitely jumping in with both feet to test it out and to see how to incorporate it. And you saw the example of Rubrik, who already published a solution around it. I don't know that we have numbers on how much time it actually saves, but I bet you it makes a big difference.
Yeah, because I can imagine eventually, right, partners and customers both, as partners work with their customers, there's going to be this whole idea behind, hey, it's saving me this much time, but how much is it cost me? Is there a return of investment, right?
That's
What is
true.
the ROI?
That's true. You have to. That's actually it's funny because one of the last ones that I published was kind of I was thinking to myself, is this really GPU worthy? It's like, is it really? I don't know.
That's
I've been
awesome.
publishing this.
That's a good one. Is it GPU worthy?
That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah.
Am
It's like the Seinfeld joke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? I get it. You're right. One of the other things I'm looking at this, and my co-host would tell you this is the least I've talked in any podcast because I'm actually reading and following your
Sorry.
stuff. This stuff is interesting. I'm like, I got to get on this bandwagon. The next time it comes by, I'm jumping on this. But let me ask you this question: with this, how much does the suppose this is a solution, you're MSSP. When do you insert the customer into the decision making process? Even though you're the trusted advisor, they still know their environment better than you.
Mhm.
Is there a touch point to say, hey, we are in this and we are possibly proposing these series of actions?
Mhm.
Is there anything in there, or is it just post-mortem to the customer?
No,
Especially,
no. Yeah, I love that you asked that question. I actually created a chat application, and we don't have time to show it to you, but probably. But
we have time for you. Go ahead. Let me see it.
Okay, so I created this. I'll bring it over. This thing is it's a chat. It's the very default chat that you can create, or web app chat that you can create with Azure OpenAI. What I did was I grounded it on my customers. They're like make believe data. So that, like, I have contracts for customers. I'll show you like one sample here. So like this is a contract for a customer, and it'll say, hey, these are the contact people. And by the way, if the SOC analyst is working on ransomware and they need to perform initial detection or whatever, they can do that without approval, but some they need approval. So like typically I work in managed services, and typically you have something a lot longer than this one, telling you, hey, this is what you can and cannot do. So what this bot does is, and I'll show you first how I created it so you can see. I just from the Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Studio, in the chat, you can add data. And I added this data, and it's actually reading from cognitive search. It's not reading from just uploading files directly. The reason is because I'm actually indexing that data so that if those contracts change, then I get the actual updated data here. So I'm going to clear it up and probably ask it at least one question. So like, for example, and I don't know what it's going to ask. So I'm working on an incident for Acme. Acme is one of my customers. Can I access their production servers to make changes? I don't even know if it's gonna let's see, a ransomware. I should probably specify ransomware incident. I don't know what it's going to tell me. Hopefully it answers right. Okay, so I see in here it actually gave me the wrong information because I asked it for Acme and it actually gave me the information from Zeta. So this is not perfect by any means. So it's actually giving me information for 2 customers that are not the correct customers. But the idea, and normally when it works correctly, is that it's going to go onto that data and then give you the answers based on the data that you have grounded it upon. And then give you citations on it, so you can actually go back to the contract to see it. In this case, see, this is actually a case of it actually hallucinated. So not a good example, but it does do that. But it is a possible solution to making sure that you can run things by it before you actually take actions. And maybe, right now, 75% of the time it'll actually give me the right answer, but I don't have it perfect.
Yeah,
yet.
to seek explicit approval from the CISO seems a little high. I think you would probably want to start somewhere a little bit below. This has been super excellent. I learned a lot. I'm stealing notes and everything. Are you putting? Of course, you are probably doing this. Are you putting all of your work inside Git, or where are you sharing your?
Yeah. So I stopped sharing, right? Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
So I haven't shared all of it yet. I'm working on it because I need to clean it up. I need to, especially the playbooks and the custom connector. I need to clean that up before I can upload it. But that's the plan, yes, to share everything. Absolutely.
You can use Git Copilot.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're at time, but I'm gonna test your knowledge here a little bit. Let me see.
Yeah.
Here. Powerpuff Girls. I see that you're a big fan of them. I've noticed all the things inside your environment. The city of Townsville, where the day is evil. I love that cartoon still. I could probably go watch it today. But it was 4 cartoons in that genre. Can you name the other 3? Because when the Powerpuff Girls were out, there were 3 other popular cartoons on Cartoon Network, and they were all connected.
I can't remember.
Dexter's Laboratory.
Dexter's Laboratory. Actually, that was one of. It's funny
Love
because
that
that's
show.
actually.
I saw the thing, yeah. No, and the other one,
of my users. And Johnny Bravo was one of them, right?
Johnny Bravo. So
Right,
actually, you found
right.
one. I forgot about him, but my other 2 were, I Am Weasel
Yeah.
and Monkey. Dial M for Monkey.
I know all of that from my sons. My sons were watching all of those when they were younger. So.
Oh yeah, my sons were too. That's how I knew about him. Yeah, I didn't watch him. This has been all. So you get to see a lot of innovative stuff, and I assume that the partners share with you their bills out because they probably want your eyes on it, and you're probably seeing some very cool stuff come out. So how do you figure out what to do? How do you figure out I'm going to do this today, right? What drives you to say I'm going to write a solution? Is it strictly problem solving, or is it innovation? You get an idea in your head and go, I'm going to build that. Which one is it, or is it a little bit of everything? Bye, Andrea.
Bye. It's both. It's curiosity myself, and it's also based on the questions that partners ask. Like, for example, the Spanish one was based directly on a partner asking for that.
Get it. So, well, to all of our, I'm sorry, Angelica, is there any parting information you'd like to give to our listeners? And this is definitely the show that you need to go watch, right? There was a lot shown that won't translate unless you put the time and effort into our listeners. You need to go watch the recording to really get what.
I'll put it on the podcast page, so they'll be able to watch the video as well.
If you're not going to go back and rewatch it, to our listeners, you're doing yourself a disjustice. I learned a lot today. You guys have never seen me this quiet. I was like, wow, I didn't done this. Any parting words before we close the show out?
No, Rod already shared my my blog post, and if anybody's in New York City, September 13, come join Microsoft Envision. You do have to register for that, So the registration is open for, I think, for a few cities. So
I'll put the link in the show notes for that as well.
That's like a
Excellent.
that's like a Wednesday, right? Yeah.
I have no idea. I probably should check. I think you're right. It's a Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. I don't know if I got travel budget, but thank you so much for coming on the show. You are more than welcome. As you build more innovations, you got things you want to share, you can come on anytime. You don't have to wait for an invite.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Oh,
blast.
this has been great. You brought me off vacation. I got my vacation shades back on. I'm ready to go back and.
You got me want to work out the hours. I feel like I'm deficient. So thanks to everyone for listening to the show. Stay tuned next week. We'll have another guest. This one's going to be a little closer to me and what I'm doing now in my role. I hope you find it super interesting. Thanks again to Miss Angelica Faber for coming in and talking about SOC optimization as well as security and AI and how it makes you better. And if you go watch the show, you'll see how it'll make you better. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good week.
You too.